So 2021's been one crazy year for keyboards, and if there's one question that just keeps getting asked on my live stream is, what are your favorite keyboards of the year? And honestly, it's really tough to just pick one, so I decided to put them all into categories. And yes, there was keyboards this year that I received that I wasn't exactly thrilled about, but honestly I wanted to keep the end of the year more positive, so I decided to pick the best of. And I'll tell you guys the categories here in a second. And for categories we have the following: the most influential, my favorite design, best value keyboard of the year, best entry-level keyboard of the year, most innovative keyboard of the year, my favorite typing experience, or the best typing experience, which is completely subjective by the way, best keyboard accessory. And we're just going to slow down the video for one moment. This is all very subjective stuff, so again, to note, this is all my personal preferences. Take that for what it's worth. If it's worth nothing, it's worth nothing. I don't know what to tell you guys, but hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Alright, the first one is most influential, and I thought, why not start off strong with something that I think is probably one of the touchiest subjects here, being most influential keyboard. But we talked a lot about this on our streams. We talked about what made a keyboard influential during the year. Also, I know there's no keycaps on these boards, so no one please hate me. But those two boards were the EK68 Round 2, as well as the Jelly Epic, or Epoch, whatever you guys want to pronounce this as. I'm good with either or. And when you really think about it, these boards have really made waves in the keyboard hobby. And this did take me a while to think about, and I have to really give this to the Jelly Epic by Owl Labs. It's really hard to deny that this keyboard here alone didn't impact the way that we now get our group buys from a lot of companies. And the biggest thing was that PE film / foam mod that they have inside this keyboard. And I seriously do think that this keyboard here did impact the future of group buys. Like I said, we're seeing a lot more keyboards now with PE film and foam included in the package. And is that a bad thing? No, I don't think it is. I personally think that gives us more options as consumers to what we buy and how we mod our keyboards. But yeah, there we go. The first thing goes to the Jelly Epic with the most influential keyboard of the year. And there we have it. That's the most influential keyboard, at least in my eyes, for the year. But I'm gonna get to my next one here, which is my favorite design or most aesthetically pleasing keyboard of the year. And let me tell you guys, this one here was actually tough. There is some really good looking keyboards this year. But I want to give a shout out to all the people who are designing things that go against the grain of what we normally perceive as a good looking keyboard. Without those people taking dares and risks in design, I don't think that we'd see some of the newer things that we've been seeing. If we stuck to the same rectangular shape that we've always been used to, I think it would be kind of dull and boring. But this category was definitely a toss-up. I looked at things like the Cloudline TKL because it had such beautiful, intricate internals, and I really liked the way those things looked. And I even explored keyboards like the Keycult. Is that a piece of dust? And I even looked at keyboards like the 265 from Keycult, which I think is a gorgeous looking keyboard as well as a great sounding keyboard too. And I don't have one of those really fancy looking bottoms, but the way they did the machining on the nice bottoms, brass is still nice, don't get me wrong, but those ones there take it to the next level. But there is one keyboard that stands out amongst everything that I've seen this year, and that's the 7V. Honestly, I really like the way this thing looks. It is beautiful on all sides. It has this beautiful minimal look to it. Gawk did an amazing job designing this keyboard. And while I have a protector on mine, the weight of this keyboard is probably one of the best pieces of this. It is absolutely stunning. I just love everything about this keyboard design. I think it's honestly amazing. But oh boy, do I have to really give it to the 7V. This is one of the few keyboards that I just felt a sense of wow when I unboxed it. It really does hit all the marks of being classy to me, and this is just my personal preference and what I think the best designed keyboard of the year was. Now the next category is the best value keyboard, and honestly this one here, and that's the EK68 Round 2, hands down. There's so much value to be found inside this keyboard. The amount of options can even be overwhelming. From aluminum tops to Bluetooth PCBs to changing the board's sound profile depending on what gasket chips you even have in there, even changing the gaskets to be different materials like the Poron or the silicone that they offer. You can tune this board so much and it sounds and feels great in almost all configs that you get. There's even different weights that you can buy for these things. There are definitely some runners up to this category, but man, it is absolutely tough to compete with the EK68 Round 2. And this is all for under $200, including some shipping costs that might come up. And yeah, you can probably get this to be more expensive than $200 if you add more bells and whistles, but the base kit alone has so much value inside this keyboard that I would be hard pressed to find another keyboard that offers this much customization for its price point. Therefore, this hands down wins the best value keyboard for me. Okay, the next topic would be the best entry-level keyboard. And I know we just talked about the best value keyboard, but I think entry-level for me is something that can help you ease into the hobby or something that's a little bit more simple. The Icky 68 Aurora actually feels a bit overwhelming, so I think that if you're newer to the hobby, all those options can maybe scare you off. So what really does make a good entry-level keyboard? Well, entry-level. And for me, that would be ease of use, or just easy to install, easy to put together. And with that being said, a few things come to mind immediately. That being the Bakaneko, which is an amazing keyboard and very easy to build as well. But there was also the KBD67 Lite Round 3, and a lot of people really like that as their first build. But there's actually something that I built recently that I think even kind of surpasses both of those, and I have tried at least once both of those keyboards. But for me, it was kind of a no-brainer the moment I tried the NK87 entry-level edition. I think this keyboard here fits a lot of people's preferences, especially because it's a TKL, and believe me, a lot of people are actually coming from full-size keyboards that do want to dabble in mechanical keyboards. Now, while you can just plug and play with this keyboard, I do recommend at least taking this apart to properly seat all the switches into the hot swap sockets just so you don't damage anything. But this keyboard here is pretty amazing for the price point. And I think this looks gorgeous plugged into. The frosted version of the NK87EE is gorgeous, but it does come in some different colors and variety here too. But this, hands down, is my entry-level pick of the year. And the next category is the most innovative keyboard of the year. And there's one keyboard that immediately stands out to me, which is the Salvation. And there's a simple reason of why I think the Salvation is the most innovative keyboard of the year. First of all, it is absolutely so refreshing to see a new mounting style done in a keyboard. This takes the idea of a leaf spring mount and puts it in a tray mounted case, which actually gives the keyboard this very unique typing feel. And on top of that, this keyboard here can actually be installed with only 2 screws, being one here and one there. And this makes it incredibly easy to swap out your PCB and plate assembly, as well as do some tinkering with the board. And the way this is done is with each one of these pour-on pads here that sit on the silver FR4 pieces, it allows the plate and PCB assembly to spring up and down. And depending on where you're putting pressure on the plate, this actually has quite a bit of flex to it, and it actually makes for a very, very unique typing experience, one that I really can't even classify. I would definitely say it leans more to the bounce side of things rather than flex. Now, one thing that came up as a suggestion for categories for this kind of award slash what's the best of the year type thing was typing experience. Like, what's the best typing experience that I've had the pleasure of using this year? And I really did take some time to stew over this. I did try almost every single keyboard in my collection just to really get a better thought of what actually makes the best typing experience for me. And there's a reason why I'm going to label this one here as super subjective for this one here, because I really do feel like this, even for me, changes on how I feel about a keyboard or how I feel about the hobby or what my current preferences towards plates, switches, etc. are. What I've come down to is I like things like the Bakaneko and the Moon Tower the most. So things like the Bakaneko, the Singa Unicorn, the Moon Tower are some of my favorite typing experiences with keyboards at the moment, so that gummy O-ring style. But I have to give it to the Moon Tower Round 2. Not only is it a very beautiful looking keyboard, I think just for me, the polycarbonate case just really hit something extra for me, and I really like it. I think this is a great looking keyboard, and I think this is probably one of the most comfy typing experiences that I personally have in my collection. Now, is it the aluminum plate? Is it the polycarbonate? Is it the gummy O-ring style? Who knows? It could be any one of these things that's attributing to what I think is the best typing experience so far of 2021 for me. But with that being said, there were so many pleasant typing experiences this year, and my current love for aluminum plates is kind of making me a little bit biased towards this, but the Moon Tower from ATX-KB wins this section for me. Not only that, it's cool RGB, and I love RGB, so this kind of wins for that too. Now for what I think the actual most important category is. What was the best accessory that I used all year? Plate forks. These ones here are from Feng Studios. I'll link them down in the description down below. But my goodness, I wish I had these 2 years ago. The idea behind this, it's going to help support the plate and PCB. So basically you put this between the plate and PCB that you're using, and this would help with any sort of sinking plates you might have, usually found in more flexi plates. This has just saved me from so much frustration on more recent builds that I have to give this as my best accessory of the year. And that pretty much sums up what I think the best ofs are of the year. Now, again, this is super preference based. Let me stress that how much preference goes into this video. It is a lot of preference. There's a lot of subjective things that we mentioned in this video that I like that maybe you guys don't agree with. And I would love to hear those things. And I would urge you guys to be part of a conversation that's a bit healthier rather than just shouting at each other. So if you guys do have different opinions, please be respectful of that. Everyone's gonna have different opinions on what made something the most influential, the best entry level, maybe what they thought the best typing experience was. It's gonna be such a beautiful thing. And I would, again, love to hear a conversation about that. But what does the keyboard world have in store for us next year? I don't know, and I'm excited to see what other things are going to be coming out for the keyboard hobby in 2022. And I hope that we can continue healthy dialogue and constructive criticism for all people designing and participating in this hobby. And I mean that regardless if they're a small designer, or maybe their first time designing something, or if they're a more experienced veteran designer. I think everyone needs constructive criticism and not just toxicity, which I think sometimes we lose focus on. You know, sometimes people can be pretty toxic, and that's a pretty shitty thing to do. But I think there's going to be a lot of really cool things coming up in the next year for keyboards. I really can't wait. I think the community is getting a lot more understanding of new things coming up too, and having more of an open mind. And remember, you don't have to buy everything that you guys see. In fact, I actually urge you guys to really think about the purchases you guys make. This is a luxury hobby after all. We can get by on just a $20 keyboard, but we choose to invest tons of money and time into building our own keyboards, which I think is really fun. But again, don't lose sight that this is a luxury hobby, and this isn't really something that's a necessity to live. You don't need keyboards, a fancy schmancy $300 keyboard, to really make your COD gameplay better. Trust me, you don't. Thank you guys for supporting a wonderful year of 2021 in content for me and for other like-minded creators in this space. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.